Welcome to Accounting Life with Jotham Tai, a space where we'll talk about anything and everything surrounding the people that grind through your month-end accounting close.
Hi, everyone. Today's episode is State of the IPO Market. Our guest today is Barrett Daniels, partner at Deloitte. On this episode, we talk about trends in the IPO market, why companies are delaying their IPOs, and we offer some advice for pre-IPO companies. Now, I'll hand it over to our host, Gapify CEO, Jotham Tai.
Barrett, hi, how's it going? Thanks for joining us again on today's show.
Hey, Jotham, great to be back. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Well, same here. It's been a few months since we last connected and talked about the IPO market. I guess just to start the conversation there, Barrett, since the time we last spoke, what's going on with the IPO market? What are you seeing? Any kind of recent trends that are notable?
Yep. Well, so unfortunately, the IPO market is still not great. Certainly not where we would like it to be. But it does feel like there are some signs that things may be picking up a little bit. Now, the question is, how quickly does this pickup happen, right? And that's where me and my IPO buddies get hung up on trying to figure out what the next steps are. But I would like to break it down a little bit, if you'll indulge me, right? I want to think through the primary reasons as to how we got here. And when I say here, I mean this lull in the IPO market. Again, 2022 was arguably the worst year for IPOs ever. Per the data, it's likely the worst IPO years in the last 3 decades. So a really troubling time for the IPO space. And not one that I would say surprised everyone, but I do think the length of this has surprised a lot of us. And so I want to think through how we ended up getting here. So the hottest topic, right, the thing that you hear about the most is inflation. So we really started to see inflation pick up in 21, towards the end of 21, and we started to see multi-decade highs that got the Fed worked up, right? The Fed doesn't like to see that, and started to really tighten the rates, or at least at the end of 21, they weren't yet tightening. They were still easing, but they started to indicate that they were no longer going to be easing. And then if you remember back, there were supply chain issues. COVID was still hot and heavy. The Omicron wave came in towards the end of 21 and threw everyone sideways. And then in Q1, we saw the sad state of affairs with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, right? So all of these events really hammered the markets in general, but really the IPO markets. And so if we think about those items and where we are today, inflation, it's not where we need it to be yet, right? But it seems to be pretty good, or at least under control. Same with supply chain. Again, not exactly back where it needs to be, but seems to be, it's certainly headed in the right direction, if not more or less under control. COVID, similar story. Unfortunately, not completely behind us, but it certainly feels like we're in a better place today than we were back when the Omicron wave was coming through. Russia, Ukraine, unfortunately, that is ongoing, but the shock of it, right, is generally behind us. And then Fed, not only are they no longer tightening, they are still tightening, but it seems to be that they are easing on the tightening. And there's even some indication that they may start easing again towards the end of this year. So, all of these are really positive signs for the IPO world, right? And the kind of stuff that we're looking at. So what kept the IPO market so slow during all of 2022 was really recession fears, let's call it, right? And just the lack of insight into what's coming and what's happening. And IPOs hate uncertainty. I was going to say they love certainty. Of course, we all do, but they really dislike uncertainty.
Just like us accountants, by the way, for the record. Barrett,
yeah,
we don't like uncertainty as accountants either, just like the market.
Totally right. So again, fast forward to where we are today, and it feels like there's a lot of these good signs out there. But that one sort of recession fear is still kind of dangling out there, right? And it always is, because all of these things are cyclical. And unfortunately, cycles don't come with signs that say, like, you are here in the cycle, right? We don't know where we are in the cycle. And all we have is past cycles to look to. And you can look to past cycles. You can look at the more famous IPO lulls, being the dot-com bust and the credit crisis, right? And this lull doesn't look the same as those, right? Looks a little bit different, where the credit crisis one was just a straight dive, where the dot-com one was a little bit broader and longer. This feels like it's kind of somewhere in between. Now, we're already a solid year plus into this lull, and that's a pretty long time. So as we sit here today, let's say I talk to all my IPO friends, and there's a broad range, right? Some are optimistic, some are pessimistic, where the optimistic folks really believe if things continue to bounce our way, that maybe the IPO market picks up and opens back up this summer. To my friends that are more pessimistic, that believe that 2023 is completely dead, right? I tend to be an optimist as it relates to this discussion. I would say I probably land somewhere in the middle, in that I think the summer is pretty aggressive to think that things open up freely by then. I mean, maybe it does, but it feels a little quick. But at the same time, thinking that the whole year is gone, that feels pretty leaning a little bit too pessimistic for me, right? So I'd love to see, I have a feeling that things do open up at the back half of this year. At least that's my wishful thinking.
Well, and that train of thought, though, and the way you laid it out, Barrett, especially as an expert in the industry, I think that level of context is important, right? Because people like me, who are not as in tune with all the details, we ask about, what the direction is of the IPO market. But the way you broke it down and all the forces that impact the progress in the IPO market, geopolitical, COVID, inflation. I mean, breaking it down and kind of thinking about what kind of progress has been made is a good way of trying to figure out what to expect for the rest of the year. And it sounds like there's some progress in specific areas of that. I think geopolitical, maybe it's still kind of, like you said, the shock is maybe behind us, but it sounds like the conflict is not ending anytime soon. So I'm sure that's weighing in. And then inflation, it sounds like we're making some progress, obviously not all the way there, but it's really actually very interesting to think about how the collective and the progress from the collective is, really translating into whether we think the IPO market is going to fare better in the back half of H2 or not. So it's really just easy to take big swags. Yeah, go ahead.
It does. It cracks me up, right? Like, because you'll see, headlines in the papers or online or wherever that kind of summarize like these entire market movements with like 3 words, that, so-and-so's earnings missed. And that describes like the whole reason why the market went down or whatever the case may be. When the reality is it's significantly more complicated. And even what I just broke down, right? 5 or 6 different factors that all impact this is way oversimplifying it, right? Like it is super complicated. The economy and the markets are very complicated. But we do the best we can. And that's why nobody can predict these things, right? Because nobody knows all of the pieces, or at least has a very, valuable understanding of all the pieces that drive this and move this. We're all out here just doing the best we can based on our own experiences and what we've seen in our time and what we've studied and read about. And it gets us to make these guesses that sometimes make us look really silly and sometimes make us look brilliant.
Well, I've got a crystal ball, I think, somewhere in my office here. And if I pull that out and just shake it and ask questions, maybe it'll give us the right answer. I'm wondering, the theme that I'm hearing with, fellow, not only startup founders, but, even later stage and pre-IPO companies and even public companies for that matter is, the emphasis on profitability, right? So do you think in the companies that are kind of on deck for an IPO, is there, obviously part of it is timing the market, but is there also a part of it where maybe companies are spending more time wanting to get better at, profitability and make sure they go out to market with stronger EPS?
Yep.
Is that part of the equation?
Yeah, no doubt, right? Like, and anytime, and we'll see this cycle repeat itself, right? I believe for the rest of our lives. And that cycle is when things are hot, it's all about growth, right? That's all anybody in the IPO investment community is basically chasing growth, because finding growth in the public markets is really hard to do, right? These big companies that have been public for a long time, growth isn't their thing anymore, right? They're still growing, but it's not all about growth. It's about a million different other things. But really, when it comes to IPOs, growth is the elixir of Wall Street. Always has been, probably always will be. Now, at this point in time, as we start to see things slow down and the risk appetite really diminishes, it's less about growth insanity and more like stable growth combined with a path to profit, right? So there's no delusions that people aren't expecting these companies to immediately become profitable, right?
Right.
But there is an idea that they should at least be able to show a straight line to profitability, right? Exactly. Where in the good times, that's not as much of a concern, right? It's how much did you grow this year compared to last year? So we are seeing that shift. And again, I believe that they're fairly short-lived, and it will be just a matter of time before we're back to sort of growth at all costs. But it is very much the state of the environment at this point in time.
Well, as an accountant who is a founder and CEO of a company, we're not going to go public in the next few years, but we have always operated the business with profitability as the principle in mind. And for us, it just made sense to grow our business in a way where we don't have to be wholly dependent on outside capital to establish the growth rates that we want to set for our business. So that tone has always been like part of our DNA, and it sounds like a lot more are starting to share the values of accountants and our desire to run a profitable business. And on that note, Barrett, just thinking about accounting teams and accounting teams specifically for companies who are on deck for an IPO, but maybe are pushing it out by several quarters or maybe even a couple of years. You may have ramped up and you got your S1 audit out of the way. You're investing in your tech stack, but maybe it's not going as fast as you once thought it was. What kind of initiatives and what do you say to these controllers and these teams just to stay ready, but also make sure that they're ready to go public when the time comes?
Yeah, right. So Jotham, as I'm sure you know, most companies are not run by accountants, right? And most of them don't come into this with the same sort of mindset that you do. In fact, most accounting is the last thing in their mind, right? They're worried about how to pay the bills and how to pay their people and where that next check is coming in. And accounting is often grossly neglected, right? I wouldn't have a job if it wasn't. Like these companies grow really fast, and it sort of happens before they realize it, and all of a sudden they're way behind in accounting, and it's just a catch-up game from now until forever, right? So now where does that leave us with, if let's say you were in a company that was planning to go public, let's say last year or even this year, and that it's now looking like you're going to be delayed. Let's call it a delay 6 months, maybe a year. What can we do during that downtime? What are some valuable things to do? Now, this is a bit of a dance, right? Because there are some things that you could do that I would say arguably are not valuable at this point in time, because it's still unclear when you will go public, right? Like I've talked to companies that were looking to go public in, let's say, 2015 that ended up going public in 2019, right? It is not uncommon to think you're going to go public at a certain time and it literally be many years later, right? And I say that to explain, that's why you don't want to get like fully SOX compliant right now, right? Like in a perfect world, yeah, it's great, right? There's a lot of additional controls and it'll help you, manage these things, but it's complete overkill for a private company and it's not required, right? So if you were to, let's say you wanted to be fully public company ready by the time you go public, I wouldn't recommend that, right? You don't need to do that because you don't really know when you're going to go public. So all of that with the backdrop of saying, these are things that I think are valuable whether you go public tomorrow or 10 years from now, right?
Gotcha.
And it's called like practical readiness items. And so, I really enjoy talking about these things because I think every company can really benefit from this. And I'm sure something that's near and dear to your heart would be, streamlining the close process, right? And this is often through implementing various technology tools that can help a company close the books faster, right? One of the first things that we ask when we go into a pre-IPO company is how long does it take you to close the books, right? And if the answer is greater than 10 days, we have some issues, right? And again, we'd love to see it at 5 days, right? But I'm saying it's common to go in there and it'd be 30 days, right? So that needs to be fixed right away. And fixed probably isn't the right word, but certainly streamlined. And that is always going to be valuable, right? Whether you go public today or in a million years, it's always going to be valuable to be able to get your data and your information better and faster, right?
Well, and if I could weigh in quickly on that,
please.
Barrett, because it is very near and dear to my heart, not only because I was on the other side of it and when that was mandated to help companies close their books faster, but now on the receiving end of that financial information, and especially in this dynamic market environment, I would like to know as quickly as possible, like where our P&L stands at the end of the month. That way we can make really constructive business decisions and adjustments to our strategy if needed. So, I've always just seen it as like on the accounting side, gold standard for a team this size should be 5 business days closed. But now my lens is like, I would love to consume that information quickly. So closing the books is the only way to do that. So I completely agree that it's not just, you need to close your books fast because ultimately you're going to need to file 10Qs and Ks. You can't meet those deadlines if you don't close your books fast enough. But there's also business value beyond being a public company that warrants a strong close. So I really wanted to, highlight that point because I think it's important. And if you're a controller, like wondering to yourself, well, we're not going to go public and for another 2 years. I don't need to close the books fast. I think their CEO would disagree with that sentiment. So I'm glad it was called out.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt. Let's say another thing is your audits, right? Like, so if you are getting audits at this point in time, and let's say you were planning to change firms, at some point, let's say you're with a boutique firm now and you wanted to navigate to one of the larger firms for whatever reason, right? Now would be the time to do that. You certainly don't want to do that in the midst of a transaction or a filing, right? And let's say with the audit, not even if you're changing the audit, let's say you already have the dream team that you need. I wouldn't recommend getting a full PCAOB audit, right? Continue to do AICPA audits as long as you can, I guess. But maybe there are certain aspects of the PCAOB audit that you might want to go ahead and incorporate into the audits now, right? So when you do have to upgrade from AICPA to PCAOB, that the process isn't as brutal as it is for a lot of companies, right? Because there is a significant difference between a private company audit and a public company audit. So maybe not, taking that all in one bite, but certainly sort of whittling away at pieces of it to just get your team more prepared for what is coming with that eventually. And again, not to do all of the minutia that comes along with it, right? But there are some key pieces of the audit that can just make the company better, make the audits go smoother, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I never think about that much, but it is a very significant change. And also one that takes time to really factor in is if you're changing auditors and if these types of conditions lend itself to making those types of decisions now, it gives you kind of the lead time that you need to not let this be disruptive when it is time for you to go public. So changing auditors, in my experience, has always been like a big lift and big effort. So now that there's some quote unquote downtime, this might be a good time to consider that.
Yep.
Another nugget there. That's really helpful.
And I would say really start to find the best advisors, right? So and I love to talk about the key to a smooth IPO is the attorneys, right? Find the best attorneys. and you will have as smooth an IPO as possible. And the key to a fast IPO is the accountants or the auditors, to make it even more specific, right? So if you have a really good audit team that's been through this process before, and you have great attorneys who have also been through this process before, that's sort of the dream scenario, right? Because they're the people that are doing the heavy lifts. But there's also many other pieces of this. There's the investor relations side, there's the banking side, and there's a million other pieces and advisors that are going to help with all of these. No time like the present, right? Even if you're as early as 2 years out from when you expect to go, these folks would love to meet with you, right? And they would love to share with you their experiences and what they've seen and what they expect to come. And as you meet these people, you're going to learn more about the markets and how all of this is going to work and who can help you the best. So I would really recommend go out and start to meet these folks sooner rather than later. And if you already have an advisor, like if one of my companies that I'm working with, I already know these folks, right? Like, so if you just send me an email and say, hey, I'd love to meet with some IR folks, right? Or I'd love to meet with some bankers, I would be more than happy to make that introduction, as would all of my counterparts throughout the Bay Area and the US in general, right? Like we all would be happy to help make those introductions. And so go ahead and take advantage of that and start meeting up with these folks. And by the time the deal actually comes around, you've already got this baked. And again, one more headache that's just long behind you.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you do these types of large transactions, financing transactions like an IPO. You only think about engaging those advisors when you really need them, right? But there is a high amount of like learning curve and getting a new partner and advisor up to speed on the business that will yield benefits downstream when it is like go time and you're under the gun for a timeline. And I think about our own financings like Gapify, and I'm going to give a shout out to Alyssa Cincini, our legal counsel. But of course there was some ramp up in the beginning of our relationship, but now that we've been partners with them for a while and they're great advisors to our business. With each and every financing, it's gone very smooely. And of course there's no bigger financing than an IPO event. So, having those types of partners, whether it's legal, even accounting advisors and so on, establishing those relationships, to your point, is important. And, you offering the network, I think is, helpful for your clients and your community as well. So three good points there. And I'm going to recap as we wrap up here, because I think these are really great points. And of course, like our audience can always rewind and play this back. But number one, just maintaining the focus on closing the books, even though you may not go public for a while. It has its benefits, not beyond just being able to file Qs and Ks timely later on. Number two is an audit change. If you're considering one, this is a great time to do so, because now you have the time to bake it in. And then also just firming up your relationships with advisors or engaging with new advisors. There's a lot you can do, Barrett, with even in this idle market. So I hope this is not only a way to generate ideas for controllers and accounting leadership that they can benefit from, but I think going in this direction, I'm sure there's more that we didn't even cover about that. That would be very beneficial as well. So there's no twiddling of thumbs, I think, even in today's market.
Yep, right on.
Barrett, this was incredibly helpful and valuable as always to our audience. Thank you so much for the update and the advice, and look forward to reconnecting again in a few months' time.
You got it. It was great. Thanks, man. Speak again soon.
Thanks for stopping by. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want more information, please check us out at gapify.com, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.